Hi, we're here on the second day of IFA Conference and I'm here with Richard White. We just discussed business digitalization and government and what's been happening. Richard, do you want to recap what was discussed on the panel?
Well, the panel, first of all, talked about this concept of digitalization. And the first thing that happened is we defined what that actually means. I call digitalization a straight-through digital process where there's no paper joining any parts of the system together and no rekeying of any entry. So the system is fully flowed from end to end as a digital process. If you need a piece of paper or you need something for human readability, that comes out of the digital flow, but it doesn't interrupt the digital flow.
In Australia, we have the ICS system and CargoWise has integrated with many other systems around the world. What's your perspective on the way we move forward?
Well, remember that ICS was built 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago really, when you think of the start of that system. And it was already built on technologies that were a few years old at the time, because you don't choose very new things, you choose things that are proven. One of the difficulties is that was a very urgent and rushed implementation because it was trying to deal with the end of life for compile. And as such, it was a very troubled implementation that had a lot of shortcuts and bad practices built into it because of the rush nature of the implementation. 20 years later, we are still living on that very old model, and it's become, from what I understand, it's become almost impossible to maintain that system. Now, at some point in time, we need to build a single window system, and that's what largely the simplified trade system was about, and largely what everybody else in the world is either doing already or is moving towards very rapidly. We haven't made really much in the way of first steps towards a true single window system. And that single window system would be incredibly good for trade. It would help Australia's imports and exports. It would make our economy better, faster and larger. And it's not yet planned to be implemented because it's a very large government IT project, and large government IT projects come with some risk. And so there's a certain amount of concern about taking that risk. But if we don't take it, we have a much bigger risk.
I'm sure a government come to you to consult on certain IT projects, and you sit on some boards, I heard in the panel. Do you think that they take the risk of imports and exports being not able to function in ICS seriously, and do you think we'll see any movement on it?
So I'm not sure that people realise that there is a potential burning platform that may make it very difficult for trade to move. It's not a high percentage probability at this stage, but every year we delay, the risk of it happening is going to become manifestly larger. So at some point in time, we either choose to take the current risks and deal with those risks as we go, and there'll be some costs involved and there'll be some potential problems with doing it, or we let it go, we keep punting it to the next government and the next government, and one day it becomes untenable and unserviceable, and we'll go into the same big bang pattern of behaviour that caused the original ICS to be built rapidly and poorly.
Yeah, it's a little bit frightening that no one's really taking it seriously, but I guess that we have 3-year terms and governments aren't really planning so much ahead. But it's good to hear they are consulting with you. And do you think this simplified trade task force has been effective?
Look, I think it defined very clearly what was needed. The real issue here is that as an industry, we need to show considerable future perspective so that government understands that we understand that there's a problem that's going to arise unless we do something. And yes, it is true that governments have 3-year windows in Australia, but that doesn't discount the fact that politicians are elected to lead, and leadership means looking into the long term and taking risks and telling people we're taking risks, and make those risks things that we manage along the way. You can't do something really good without having some risks that relate to that good thing. So we should be speaking honestly about the risks. We should be taking a view that is manageable, and we have to go forward with it. To do it now or in the very near future is going to be so much cheaper and better for trade and better for the economy than allowing it to roll up into a big cataclysm.
Yeah, it sounds somewhat frightening. I think you mentioned the Fascinators not arriving at the day after Melbourne Cup Day. That would be terrible from my experience. But thank you so much for sharing your valuable insight.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.